Perfect. Okay. So we have been using this strategy in reading with social studies, right?
I think so.
And we've been using it when looking at those Pathblazer social study lessons. Today, we're going to use it for the first time on an actual, reading lesson. This, again, is a follow-up activity from Pathblazer lessons. I noticed last week when I was asking some of you to take the quiz that was due last week for grades, that we were struggling with the reading lessons in addition to just the social studies ones, and I saw that in both classes. So I wanted to show you how we can use this strategy for not only the social studies lessons, but also the reading ones, okay? So in front of you, you have a couple of papers that is going to take us through the rest of our time here today in class. Now, on Pathblazer, you'll notice that these are all activities, or there's a couple of videos, and then there's some things that you just have to read, but there's no quiz. So hear me when I tell you that completing this packet is your quiz and will be your reading grade for this week, okay? The kids at home have been sent the same stuff. They're doing the same thing, except for they have to do it on the computer, okay? You're going to get the chance to do it on paper, unless you have a computer, and then I'll walk you through how to do that in Google.
Sure.
Okay, so remind a friend, what does it mean if I ask you to survey a text?
Look at it.
What does it mean?
Look at it. Look at it for me. Yeah, it's just look at it, not read it, just look at it. To know what it's about.
So am I doing a deep read? No, I'm just looking at it and being like, okay, what's jumping out at me here? Usually when we're doing nonfiction text, this is something that we're looking at pictures and text features and that sort of thing. With a fictional text, which is like what we're going to be doing today, what do you think you might be able to notice on a survey?
What?
When it's a fictional text, it doesn't have pictures or maps or vocabulary words embedded into it, what might you be able to notice on a survey?
That it's fictional.
Okay. And what are some things that most fictional texts have?
I don't know.
Dialogue. Yeah, talking between characters. So when we survey this text, in just a little bit, I'm going to ask you to check and see, are there any things like dialogue? Is there any like italicized words? Because sometimes that indicates thinking. Or what other thing, are there any pictures that I might get some clues from to help me understand the words on the paper? Those sort of things, right? And then just like we do in informational text, we're going to want to be thinking about questions. Now, for this particular activity, you're going to have to actually answer some questions about the text. So when we're using this strategy for a fictional text that has comprehension questions at the end, we're going to want to look at those questions before we read, because that tells us what we're supposed to be paying attention for within the story. Make sense?
Why is the screen keep glitching out?
I don't know. The screen is glitchy today. It is what it is. At least it's letting us record, so the kids at home have this if they choose to use it. So we're going to survey. We're going to look at our questions, and then we're going to what?
Read.
Read. Okay, and when we read, we are referring back to those questions and thinking about, like, how are we going to be answering that? Before we actually write, which is on our retell part, I'm going to have you rehearse with a friend. I don't know why I drew that line. We don't need that line. You're going to rehearse with a friend by talking about what you read, okay? Because writing is just talking on paper. So when we retell the last step in our strategy, that's when we're going to actually do our writing or answering of our questions. So I'm a hot mess today. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is look at our instructions. We're going to survey our instructions. So on the top of your page, you have this written. Survey that little blip. What do you notice right off the bat? What do you see?
A summary.
You see a summary.
That's darker and bolder than every other word.
Do you see numbers?
Yes.
And directions. Okay, so we know when we see this, that means we're going to have to do something. Okay. Are you wondering, like, what kind of things you're going to have to do?
Kind of.
Yeah, maybe. So let's take a look. A summary is a brief description of the important details of a literary text. It must be objective or free from the writer's opinions. Along with stating the title and author, the summary includes the theme and key supporting details, the main characters, setting, main plot events, and conflict. In this activity, you will read a short story and identify important details. Your answers will help you write an objective summary that includes a theme statement. Directions. Review the questions in part 1, which appear after the story. As you read, look for the details that will answer these questions. You can underline, circle, or use a highlighter to mark the text. Read the short story, Hiking for Dummies. Pay close attention to the main characters, setting, plot, events, and conflict. Number 3, answer the questions in part 1. Number 4, use your notes from part 1 to write an objective summary of the story. Okay. We surveyed. We looked at some questions, aka the directions of what we're going to have to do. I read. Your job is to what? The second R. Rehearse. Tell a friend, what are we going to be doing for this activity? Okay, it looks like our rehearsing is about done. Are we ready to confirm and retell what we're going to actually be doing? Okay, who can tell me what are we going to do today? Tyler, give me one thing.
You're going to read Hiking for Dummies.
We're going to read a story called Hiking for Dummies. Okay, what else are we going to do today? Fiona. We're going to answer some questions. Yes. What else are we going to do today, CJ? Ooh, you're going to highlight some things that you determine as being important. Okay, so what are we going to need in order to do that?
A highlighter.
A highlighter. If you need to get one out, make it happen. Okay? Anything else that we're going to have to do with this activity today? No, that's it? Why did it tell us information about what a summary is? Let me see why. Because we're also going to write a summary. Aha, yeah. Okay. Now, we followed our strategy for the directions. Are we ready to check it out with the text? Everybody have a highlighter? Yes.
Now,
No. You need one? Speak now or forever hold your pieces. I already have one. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to refer back to the directions because look, in number 1, it says review the questions in part 1, which appear after the story. Okay. Turn to the questions.
what page is that on?
Look in your packet.
Receive.
Here's one. Hold up your highlighter. Because the direction said, as you read, look for details that will answer the questions. You can underline, circle, or use a highlighter to mark the text. But I want you to do that for the most important parts of these questions. So look at number 1. Who are the main characters? What do the characters want? What is important about that question? What am I looking for? Main characters. Highlight it, please. What else? What do they want? Highlight that too.
Highlight want.
Yes. Okay. How about number 2? What is the story setting? Do we even need story? Now, we just need to remember to talk about the setting. Right? Number 3. What conflict does the main character face and how is it resolved? What's our important parts of that question?
Conflict.
Conflict. And resolved. And who's facing it? The main characters. Okay. Good. So for number 4, they want to know, what are the most important plot events?
Important plot events.
Yeah, I'm thinking important plots. Good. Last one. What do the important events say about life? What is the story's theme?
Theme.
Theme. Yes. Any others?
Life.
Yeah, I'm thinking life, right? Say about life, right? Okay. We looked at our questions. We underlined or highlighted the most important parts of those questions so we really know what we're going to be looking for. So before we read, remind your friend, what things are we going to be looking for when we read this short story? Ready in 3, 2, 1. Okay, while we read, we're going to look at this. We're going to look for the answers of these questions. Okay? Now, you're going to have your highlighter ready, but I don't want you highlighting anything the first time we're reading it. Okay? Why do you think that is? The first time you read something, what are you really doing? You're just decoding, basically. Okay? You're making sure you know how to say all the words. You might get some meaning out of it, but you're not getting all the meaning you can until you look at it again. Okay? So the first time we read it, we're just going to read it. We're going to make sure we know the words. We're going to get the gist. Then we're going to come back with a new focus on our answering our questions. Kavish? Anybody want to read today?
No.
Looks like Miss Brandt is up again then. Okay. Follow along. Hiking for Dummies. As Lamar watched Danielle fill her backpack, he asked for maybe the zillionth time, "Hey, can I come hiking with you?" "Little bro, you couldn't keep up with us. Hiking takes a lot of practice." "But I've read Hiking for Dummies and I know all about—" "Someday, kiddo," Danielle replied, jumping up to grab her phone. A minute later, she was back, saying, "It's your lucky day. Dawn can't hike with me tomorrow, so if Dad says it's okay, I'll let you come with me because no one should hike up a mountain alone." Lamar finished, adding, "I read that." The next morning, Lamar wrote their names and the time on a register at the trailhead, saying, I read that you should always sign in, so if anything happens, the rangers will know where to look for you. Danielle sighed with impatience. Halfway up the trail, Lamar was still just a few steps behind Danielle and feeling pretty good. Then Danielle slipped and fell. Ah, she cried, grabbing her ankle. I can't walk on this. You have to go get help. Lamar replied, Nope, I'm staying with you because you shouldn't be alone. That's what the book says. The rangers will look for us if we aren't back before dark. I have a flashlight, and I know what to do if we see a bear. Bing! Danielle laughed weakly. An hour later, some hikers appeared and offered to help Danielle down the mountain. And a few hours after that, she and Lamar were home. Thanks for your help, Lamar, Danielle said as their dad propped her foot on a pillow. No problem, Lamar said. Maybe next time we should try this other trail and you can lead the way, Danielle finished. Okay, let's go back and look at our question. But before we do, I want you to retell what we read in the story. What happened?
She wouldn't let him with them, and then her
Three, two, one. All right, turn back to your questions. Let's see what we've got. Number one, who are the main characters? What do they want? Who's got an answer for me? Fiona. Okay, Lamar and Danielle. So Lamar, Danielle. How did you know that they are the main characters?
Because they were in the story most of the time.
Okay, they were the ones involved in the story. Now, I'm going to just highlight Lamar and Danielle. Okay? Go back. Now, what's the second part of that question asked?
What did they want?
What do they want? Do they both want the same thing? I want to know what they want and where you found it in the story. You good? And where did you find that in the story? Okay, so he says Danielle wanted to go hiking with a friend. How do we know she wanted to go hiking with a friend? What part of the story tells us that? Find the line for me. It's your lucky day. John can't come hiking with me tomorrow. Here we go. John. So that's telling me Danielle wanted to go with a friend, right? Good. Oh, what? Wrong way. Hike with John. Okay, and Lamar wanted to what?
Go along.
Go alone or go along?
Along.
Yeah. Go with Danielle. And we got that from here, right? Hey, can I come hiking with you? Okay. Good. Question number 2. What is the story setting? And I want to know where you found it in the story. What do you think?
On a mountain forest.
On a mountain?
No one should hike up a
In
mountain.
a forest?
They were on a mountain.
A mountain? Does it say what mountain?
No.
Mount Everest.
Well, it doesn't say that. Well, they also were at home, right? How do you know they were at home? Yeah, and she said, well, if Dad says so, right? Well, Dad probably is at home, right? So let's see, Dad, where's that one? If Dad says it's okay, means home. And then here's our mountain, right? Oh, I keep going the wrong one. Good. Number 3, what conflict does the main character face and how is it resolved? What was the conflict of the story? And how was it resolved? What does that word resolved mean? Fixed. Okay, what about conflict? What does that mean? What's a conflict? A problem. Okay, so what problem or conflict did the main character face and how was it solved? How was it resolved? I want to know, where did you find it? Tyler.
The conflict was she sprained her ankle.
Yeah, she sprained her ankle. Where did you see that? And who's she?
Danielle.
Danielle. So Danielle sprained ankle. Okay, there's our conflict. Where did you find that in the story?
Then Danielle slipped and fell. It's on
Yes.
the second to last paragraph, right after good.
You got it. That's our conflict, right? That's the problem. Now, go to that second part of the question. How was it resolved? Yona.
Hikers came and helped them.
Ooh, hikers came and helped that. Where did you find that?
In the other page where it says, an hour later, some hikers appeared and offered to help.
Yes. That's your resolution, right? Good. So, hikers came and helped. Should we say an hour later? Was that an important detail in that? Or does that not matter? What do you think?
I think it does.
You think it does or does not?
I think it does.
You think it does?
No.
What do you think, Robert? Does it matter?
I think so.
I'm thinking since our goal is to eventually write an objective summary, that might be a detail that we include in our summary, right?
Yeah. Because we don't know how long they waited, so it could have been a day.
Yeah.
And why would that be, what would be the difference between an hour later and a day later?
Well, a day later, you can never know. Something could happen to them. They could get hungry. A bunch of things could have happened. But an hour later, hikers came.
Yeah. So there's a big difference between being stranded on the trail for an hour versus being stranded on a trail overnight, right?
You would have been out overnight.
Yeah, you'd have to sing for the bears, right?
It's horrible.
Okay. Number 4. What was the most, or what are the most important plot events? Plot? What's the plot? What is that? Who could tell me what a plot is? Because if I have to identify what are the most important plot events, I better know what a plot is first, right? Anybody?
Where something happened.
Where something happened? Okay. When something happened? Okay. Any others? How many of you have ever seen a story arc? It looks like this. You guys have seen those before? We're going to use those this year a couple of times. So you have your beginning of the story over here. You have the ending of the story over here. And usually it builds and builds and builds, and then here's that conflict
Use that.
during the climax of the story, right? So this is like a plot, like the way the plot unfolds. So does it include where things happened and when things happened? Are they right? Yeah? Ms. Berther, you want to add to that?
Plot is basically your storyline. And when you were in, I'm sorry, I keep making reference to first grade, but you all know that's where I'm from. So we talked about retelling, just retelling in order, right? Well, that's really, you're telling the plot of the story. It's how the author gets you to the conflict and resolution, which is where the lesson of the story is, right? So the plot is the storyline.
Right? Good. You have like a rising action over here. I know you guys have seen this. So, if we had to identify what are the most important plot events, what could we say? And I think we better do this in order. So go back to your story. What happens to kind of begin the ball rolling up the hill? CJ.
Lamar was
Oh, no, you couldn't keep up with us. Okay, so I'm gonna label that
Is that
one. It is, because they're talking about it, right?
their conversation in the event, okay? They haven't done the hike yet.
Okay, they're planning, right? So maybe number one is planning to go for a hike. Do we agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so first they plan to hike. Okay, then what happened? Oh, wrong way. Then what happened?
John can't go.
John can't go. He canceled. Uh-oh. John canceled. That's number two, right? Because John canceled, what happened in response? Lamar gets to go. Okay, this is important. So number two, John cancels, which leads to number three, Lamar gets to go.
Oh, that's almost like
Okay, what happens after that? Oh, here, I'll go back. What happens after that?
They asked their dad.
They did ask their dad. That is kind of what led to number three, though, right? That's what made it so Lamar could go. So now we know, okay, we know who's going, then what?
Decided.
They go, right? They arrive at the mountain and they sign in. Yes. Why did they do that?
If anything happens,
Oh, yeah. Okay. Now what happens? They signed in. They're at the mountain. They go hiking.
And then Daniel will break. He sprains his ankle.
But Danielle falls, right? So she went hiking, but she slipped and fell. That's important, right? Why is that important?
Because it's the climax.
It leads to the what? Ms. Rosari?
Well, I was gonna say that we can tell it's important because it's kind of a life and death situation. That's kind of a red flag to us. And
Yes.
this is huge.
Yes, for sure. So then, here she is. Can't walk on her ankle. What happens next? What's the next most important? I mean, that is definitely important.
They wait for an hour.
They wait for an hour. Okay. What else could it be? Let's reread that last little bit. So turn to where it says halfway up the trail. Lamar was just a few steps behind Danielle. Okay, it's the second to last paragraph on the first page. You there? Okay. So we're looking for the next important plot event. The next most important thing that happens in the story. Halfway up the trail, Lamar was still just a few steps behind Danielle and feeling pretty good. Then Danielle slipped and fell. Ah, she cried, grabbing her ankle. I can't walk on this. You have to go get help. Lamar replied, nope, I'm staying with you because you shouldn't be alone. That's what the book said. The rangers will look for us if we aren't back before dark. I have a flashlight, and I know what to do if we see a bear. Sing. Danielle laughed weakly. An hour later, some hikers appeared and offered to help Danielle down the mountain. And a few hours after that, she and Lamar were home. Thanks for your help, Lamar, Danielle said as their dad propped her foot on a pillow. No problem, Lamar said. Maybe next time we should try this other trail and you can lead the way, Danielle finished. Okay, so we've heard two things. They wait for an hour or the hikers arrive. Talk with your table. Which one is the next most important event that happens in the story? You think. Make sure you tell them why you think that. All right, what do we think? What was the next most important event? Brooklyn,
Hikers arriving
why?
because that's when they got help.
Okay, good. Who else wants to share what they're thinking? Say it loud, I can't hear you.
The hikers running there is important because it's like a change.
Actually, what changes happens in the story, right? Either they're stuck there overnight or something's happening.
What about what little brother did? Because when she first fell, what did she say? You better go get help. And what did he say? No, I'm not doing that. Now, I agree that the hikers arriving is the next most important plot event. But I think we need to star this part because this is going to really build on that idea of what the theme of this story teaches us, right? Which we know is coming in our last question, right? So some hikers appeared would be what, number 6? Okay. Hikers arrive. How did our story end? What's our last most important event?
They got home and they said, Lamar shouldn't leave the trial.
They got home and decided Lamar's in charge next time, right? Okay, so they got home. Lamar in charge next time. Okay. How many of you have noticed so far that my answers on these questions are not like perfectly polished sentences? Have you noticed that? Why do you think that is?
So you don't take too much room. So you don't take up too much room.
Partly. But also, what are these questions going to help us do?
Because you don't need like a big sentence to tell you one thing. All you have to do is just write like a little.
Yeah, these are really just our notes that are going to help us write a good summary, right? Just another way notes can look. So, number 5, what do these important events say about life? What is the story's theme? Do you remember what a theme is?
Sitting.
No.
Wait, what?
What they're going to do.
See my labor? Remember this? Theme
It's the message.
is the message of the story. Okay? So, what do the important events say about life? Now, so there's a reason why, even though we did label actual events, there's a reason why I wanted you to really think about this, because what does that one paragraph teach the reader? Say it louder. Okay, stick together when you're hiking. That could be the message. What else could it be? What do you think Danielle learned about Lamar? He's a helpful kid. Okay. Maybe, do you think she was maybe underestimating him a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah, she started the story with, little bro, you could never keep up with us. And then she ended the story with, you can lead the way next time. That's a big thing for Lamar. What did he learn from this event, this series of events?
To never give up.
Never
Don't give up. Good. What did you say?
Never hike alone.
Don't ever hike alone. Don't underestimate little brothers. All of those are themes. Okay. So your job then, as the reader, is to decide which of those big ideas, which of those lessons you think is the story's theme, and write that on your paper. It's your choice, because theme is subjective, right? Theme is the message or lesson you're getting out of this. But you need to make sure to include which events from the story make you think that's the theme. Does that make sense? You have it down? Give you one more minute.
$11:30. Doesn't change.
That's right.
So if it were me, I would be talking about this paragraph. And my theme would be, don't underestimate. little brothers. Sure. Okay. I want you to go back when you're finished to the very top of the front page. Oh, not this one. This one. So it says, a summary is a brief description of the important details. Brief description. What is a brief description? Is it long? It's quick, right? It's small. It must be objective. What does that mean? What comes after it? It must be objective or what? Free from the writer's opinion. So you are just telling me this is what happened. Okay? You state the title and the author. Did it even give us an author? Well, apparently in this one there's no author, but you'll just say Hiking for Dummies. And it includes the theme and key supporting details, main characters, setting, main events, and conflict. And I would add, and resolution. You got to tell me how it ended, right? So you're going to use your answers on your questions to help you write your summary. You're going to either write it on the back of your paper, or if you have a Google connected device, this assignment is also in Google Classroom. You're welcome to pull it up and type it. Okay? If you don't, your handwriting. Either way, fine. So you have the rest of our time together to work on it. Because I know it takes some kids longer than others. If you finish, I want you reading. Now, if you go to the actual writing page, it tells you it's a 1-paragraph summary. Okay? It needs to include all those things we just talked about. And it should include all of the things that you wrote as answers in those questions. If it takes you more than 1 paragraph, that's fine. But it cannot be less.
Okay.
Okay? This is kind of your checklist. Okay? You should be doing all of these things. Now, since this last number 5 question was something you had to determine, you need to make sure you're telling me why you think that based on important events and what they say about life. Okay? I know that's deep for a 6th grade brain, but I know you can do it as well. When I said this is going to take the rest of our time together, I'm including the time after recess. Okay? So go ahead and get started. If you need me to show you how to get to it on Google, raise your hand. I'll come show you where to go. And when my recess bell rings, you're going to wash hands and get your snacks before lining up. Okay? I'll be right there, Miss Elise. Let me just turn off the recording.
Can I write on a table because it's hard to write on.
You can use a whiteboard, or I